The storm was settling in, the wind howling against the old timbers of the lodge. Snow piled high outside, sealing guests in for the night. Inside, the fire crackled in the grand stone hearth, casting long shadows across the dimly lit bar. "Been here long?" the bartender asked, polishing a glass, his voice calm but knowing. "New guests always have questions. Some ask about the mountains, the trails, the history. Others, they notice the little things, the salt, the doors that never open, the stories." He set the glass down and leaned in slightly. "If you're staying the night, there are some things you should know." The first thing most guests notice is the photographs. They bring their cameras, their phones, eager to capture the beauty of the mountains, the rustic charm of the lodge. At first, everything seems fine. The pictures look normal. Then they start to fade. Faces dull, eyes blur out, skin turns pale like it's been overexposed to light that wasn't there. Trees lose detail, furniture warps at the edges. By the third day, the images are nothing but pale white rectangles, like something bleached the memory out of them. It doesn't matter what kind of camera is used, film, digital, Polaroids, all the same. Except for one. A single photograph has never faded. It was taken in 1972 and still hangs in a frame above the bar. The image is sharp, the color's rich. It shows the lodge's front steps, looking much the same as they do now. In the foreground, a woman in a red coat stands alone. Her eyes are wide, her smile strange. No one knows who she is. There's no record of her, no guest logs, no name. But she remains frozen in time, and the only photograph the lodge refuses to erase. Her hands are in her pockets, mostly hidden. But if you look closely, the shape beneath the fabric isn't quite right. Every guest room in the lodge has a small tin of salt on the nightstand. Most guests don't notice it at first, but when they do, they ask why it's there. So the staff gives them the pamphlet. "Welcome to the lodge. Please place a ring of salt around your bed before the first night. You don't have to make it perfect, just enough to close the circle. As long as the ring isn't broken, you will sleep fine." Most people laugh it off. Some find it charming, a rustic tradition. Some take pictures of the tin, though those pictures never last. Some ignore it entirely. Most of the time, nothing happens. But not always. A couple once stayed in room 12. Newly married, happy, didn't believe in folklore. The salt tin sat unopened on the nightstand. That night, the ceiling creaked as though someone were walking above them. The room grew cold, colder than it should have. They woke up exhausted, pale. They stayed 4 nights. By the end, they weren't speaking to each other. The woman kept rubbing her arms. The man wouldn't eat. They checked out early. They never spoke of what happened. But the salt tin was still sealed. The first time it happened, no one noticed right away. It was after midnight. The guests were asleep, the lobby empty. The night staff heard the noises first. Not from outside. Not from the rooms upstairs. Inside the walls. Pounding fast and heavy like fists slamming against timber. Then sharper sounds, nails dragging against beams. Long, angry scratches echoing through the building. A dishwasher ran outside and refused to come back. Another hid in the freezer. The noise only stopped when someone relit the fire. It took 5 tries before it caught. The next morning, the maintenance man cleaned the ash trap beneath the grate. That's where he found the teeth. 6 of them, Human. Old, yellowed, as if they'd been buried for years. Not cracked, not burned. Just resting in the ash. It wasn't the last time someone let the fire go out. The next time, they weren't as lucky. Now, even during storms, someone always tends the flames. The wood pile stays full, the lighter fluid stocked. Because they don't know how long it would take for the walls to start screaming again. And they don't want to find out. Some doors in the lodge stay locked. Always. Room 7 is one of them. It's on the second floor, down the east hallway. The key card slot has been covered with tape. That door hasn't opened in years. Because of what happened to the honeymooners. They checked in young and in love, holding hands, laughing too loudly. Ordered champagne. Signed the guest book. Smiled for a photo by the fireplace. They never made it to breakfast. The groom was found sitting in the armchair, hands bundled in blood-soaked towels. He had chewed off 3 fingers on each hand. His bride was hanging upside down from the shower rod. Her eyes were open. Someone had sewn her eyelids open, not with thread, but with strands of hair, long, dark loops knotted through the skin. The salt they had scattered on the floor was broken in 2 places. Something had gotten in. And the groom swore the woman he woke up beside was not his wife. 6 winters ago, a woman checked in late, unannounced. She was alone, brought only 1 bag. She told the clerk she just needed somewhere high up, away from everything. Her signature in the guest book was small, uneven, the name impossible to read. She locked herself in her room. No calls, no noise complaints, no requests. Until she came downstairs at midnight. She looked pale, shaky. "There's something inside me," she said. Then she turned and walked away. In the morning she was gone. Her car was still in the lot. Her keys were still on the nightstand. They found her in the sauna. Her body was cut open, neck to waist. Not slashed, not torn. Sliced. A perfect incision. Her spine was missing. Nothing else was touched. And in her room, the mattress had been torn open. Inside, arranged in careful, precise order. Her vertebrae, stacked neatly in a rising incline, like a staircase, leading up to nowhere. The bartender looked up. Outside, the storm was easing. The wind had settled, the snow still falling, but quieter now. "You've been sitting here a while now, huh?" he said. "Most folks hear 1 or 2 of these stories and decide to turn in early. But you stayed. You listened." He smiled, setting the glass aside. "And that means something around here. Maybe you're wondering how much of it is real. Maybe you're hoping it's just folklore or lodge tradition taken too seriously. That would be nice, wouldn't it? But you've seen the salt tin in your room. You've walked past the fire. You've heard the creaks in the hallway. This place isn't like other resorts. It's older. Wilder. It remembers things." The bartender took your empty glass. "You've got a warm bed waiting," he said. "Just don't forget the salt."